not the best thing. This is not the right time. Not today. Maybe some other time, but not today. And the reason I did that is because it was what was best for them, and I knew that. And I knew that. Yeah. 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 I know you did. I know you did. They indeed for a few days chastened us as seemed best to them, but he for our profit, that we may be partakers of his holiness. In other words, God brings us back in line for the same reason, so we'll have a chance to go to heaven. Now, no chastening seems to be joyful for the present, but it's painful. No punishment is fun at the time. Nevertheless, afterward, it yields the peaceable fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it. It's not fun while it's happening, but the end result, when we get to the other side, you know, I keep hoping that will be the case with the COVID. That at least for most Americans, when we get to the other side of this, we will sooner or later will actually be better. We will have been chastened. We will have learned some lessons, and hopefully some folks will have recognized God. I'm kind of hoping this will kind of be a wake-up call for our country. I know everybody is not going to see the chastening that way. Sadly, we see that on the news about every night. But I'm hoping that for most Americans, that this will be a wake-up call for us, and we will actually be better when all of this is over. Therefore, strengthen the hands which hang down, and the feeble knees, those who need our help, and they need our support, and they need our encouragement. We need to try to help them, and make straight paths for your feet, so that what is lame may not be dislocated, but rather be healed. Pursue peace with all people, and holiness, without which no one will see the Lord. If we're not trying our best to be as peaceable as possible, and sometimes it seems like that gets harder and harder all the time, to just be at peace with everybody, because everybody out there doesn't want to be at peace. I'm sorry to say that, but it's true. But the Bible tells us to be peaceable. And the Hebrew writer tells us here, if we don't try to do it that way, we're not going to see heaven. We're not going to make it if we're not seeking after peace. Looking carefully, lest anyone fall short of the grace of God. It can happen. I know that it is widely believed in the religious world today that we're saved by grace, and it doesn't matter what we do. But our obedience is required. Through the grace of God, we have a chance to go to heaven. But practicing His Word is required. We can fall short of His grace. Lest any root of bitterness springing up cause trouble, and by this many become defiled. It could be that John Hargis and I we might disagree on something. For the most part, me and John see just about everything alike, I think. But there might be something that we might maybe something concerning should the church do this or not? You know, some kind of work, some kind of support that we're sending. We could disagree on whether we should do that, but we've got to make sure, John, that it doesn't escalate and reach a point where John and T.A. just simply don't like each other because we disagreed over one thing. We've got to make sure that doesn't ever happen. lest there be any fornicator or profane person like Esau, who for one morsel of food sold his birthright. And we know that story concerning his brother Jacob. For you know that afterward, when he wanted to inherit the blessing, even though he had traded it that day, when it came right down to it and his father Isaac was ready to offer the birthright and give him his blessing, Jacob slid in there. Now that's what God wanted to happen. We know that that's the way God intended it. But Esau, by that time, had changed his mind. He wanted that blessing. For you know that afterward, when he wanted to inherit the blessing, he was rejected. For he found no place for repentance, though he sought it diligently with tears. He was so mad at Jacob, Jacob actually had to get out of town because Esau was going to kill him. For you have not come to the mountain. Now he's talking about Sinai here. Think back to what it was like when the children of Israel were encamped around Mount Sinai, and Moses has gone up on the mountain. For you have not come to the mountain that may be touched and that burned with fire, and to blackness and darkness and tempest. Remember, they looked at it and there was thunder and lightning and smoke up there on the mountain. It must have been a real sight to behold. And the sound of a trumpet and the voice of words, so that those who heard it begged that the words should not be spoken to them anymore, for they could not endure what was commanded. And if so much as a beast touches the mountain, it shall be stoned or shot with an arrow. And so terrifying was the sight that Moses said, I am exceedingly afraid and trembling. But you have come to Mount Zion, and to the city of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem, to an innumerable company of angels, something better. What you have now under the new covenant is better than what they had. To the general assembly and the church of the firstborn, who are registered in heaven. To God the judge of all, to the spirits of just men made perfect. What you've got is better than that. To Jesus, the mediator of the new covenant, and to the blood of sprinkling that speaks better things than that of Abel. See that you do not refuse him who speaks. For if they did not escape who refused him who spoke on earth, much more shall we not escape if we turn away from him who speaks from heaven. Whose voice then shook the earth, but now he has promised, saying, Yet once more I shake not only the earth, but also heaven. Now this, yet once more, indicates the removal of those things that are being shaken, as of things that are made, that the things which cannot be shaken may remain. Therefore, since we are receiving a kingdom which cannot be shaken. You're trying to raise your hand.